The year was 1648, and the Ashford plantation stretched across the Virginia lowlands like a kingdom of its own. Tobacco fields swayed under the summer heat, and the manor house stood tall with white columns that gleamed against the sky. Everything there followed an order. Strict, silent, unbreakable. Abigail Beaumont had returned from Philadelphia 3 months earlier. At 23, she was different from her parents. She had studied literature, philosophy, music. Her mother wanted her married to a wealthy merchant. Her father wanted her to understand the business that sustained their fortune. But Abigail felt like a stranger in her own home. She walked through the house with books under her arm, avoided the dining hall conversations about crops and profits, and spent her afternoons on the veranda, watching the workers move through the fields like shadows under the burning sun. It was on one of those afternoons that she first saw her. Elara had arrived the week before, brought from a farm in the Carolinas. No one knew much about her past. She was tall, with dark skin that caught the light, and eyes that seemed to hold entire lifetimes. She moved with a quiet dignity that made people uncomfortable. She didn't lower her gaze like the others. She didn't flinch when voices were raised. Abigail noticed her carrying water buckets to the workers in the field. Her movements were graceful, purposeful. She sang softly as she walked, a melody Abigail had never heard before, something that sounded like a prayer and a lament at once. Their eyes met for the first time across the yard. Elara paused, just for a second. Then she continued walking, but something had shifted in the air between them. That evening, Abigail couldn't stop thinking about her, about the song, about the way she moved through a world designed to break her spirit, yet remained unbroken. Days passed. Abigail found excuses to walk near the workers' quarters. She asked the housekeeper about the new arrivals. She learned Elara's name, though no one seemed to know her story. One morning, Abigail saw Elara kneeling in the garden behind the main house, tending to herbs. She was alone. Abigail approached slowly, her heart beating faster than it should. "Those are medicinal plants," Abigail said softly. Elara looked up. Her expression was guarded, but not afraid. "Yes, miss." "Where did you learn about them?" A pause. "My grandmother taught me before." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Abigail knelt beside her, ignoring the dirt on her dress. "What's this one?" "Lavender. Good for calming the mind." Their fingers almost touched over the purple flowers. "Teach me," Abigail whispered. Elara's eyes searched hers, looking for mockery, for cruelty, for the trap she had learned to expect from white faces, but she found only curiosity. And something else, something dangerous, if miss wishes, Elara said quietly. From that day forward, Abigail visited the garden every morning. She told herself it was to learn about herbs, about healing, about things her books in Philadelphia had never taught her. But deep down, she knew the truth. She was drawn to Elara in a way she couldn't name, in a way that made her chest tight and her thoughts scattered. They spoke in whispers. Elara taught her about plants and remedies. Abigail brought books and read passages aloud. Slowly, carefully, a bridge formed between two worlds that were never supposed to touch. But the plantation had eyes everywhere. Martha, the head housekeeper, noticed the young mistress spending too much time in the garden. She noticed how Abigail's face changed when Elara was near. She noticed things that made her jaw tighten and her suspicions grow. One evening, as the sun set red over the fields, Abigail's father summoned her to his study. "You've been spending time with that new girl," he said without looking up from his ledger. Abigail's heart stopped. "I've been learning about medicinal plants for the household. Learn from the physician in town, not from property." The word hit her like a slap. Property. "Yes, father," she said, though every part of her rebelled. That night, Abigail lay awake, staring at the ceiling. She thought about Elara's voice, her hands moving through the earth, the way she looked at the sky as if remembering freedom. She knew she should stay away. She knew the danger of what was growing between them. But when morning came, she found herself walking to the garden again. Elara was already there, waiting. Their eyes met, and neither spoke, but they both understood. Something had begun that couldn't be stopped, something that would change everything. If you want to discover what happens next, don't forget to like and follow the channel so you don't miss the upcoming chapters. The weeks that followed were a dance of careful glances and whispered words. Abigail and Elara developed a language of their own. A tilted head meant not safe. A hand on a specific plant meant meet me tonight. A certain song hummed meant I'm thinking of you. Abigail had never felt so alive and so terrified at once. She began bringing Elara small things, a ribbon, a piece of soap that smelled like roses, a shawl for the cold nights. Elara accepted them with quiet gratitude, though she knew each gift was a risk. "Why do you do this?" Elara asked one evening as they sat hidden behind the smokehouse, the only place on the plantation where shadows fell thick enough to conceal them. "Do what?" "Treat me like I'm human." Abigail's throat tightened. "Because you are. Because this whole system is wrong, and I don't know how to fix it, but I can't pretend I don't see you." Elara looked at her for a long moment. "Seeing me could cost you everything." "I know." "Then why?" Abigail didn't have an answer, or rather, she had one she couldn't speak aloud. Not yet. Instead, she pulled out a small leather journal from her pocket. "I've been writing. About everything. About what I see here. What I feel. I want you to read it." Elara's eyes widened. "I can't read, Miss Abigail. I'll teach you. That's illegal." "I don't care." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. So began the secret lessons. Late at night, in the storage room beneath the main house, by the light of a single candle, Abigail taught Elara letters and words. Elara was a fast learner, hungry for knowledge that had been denied her entire life. They sat close together, shoulders touching, breath mingling in the small space. Sometimes their hands would brush as Elara traced letters on paper, and the touch would linger longer than necessary. One night, as rain drummed against the roof, Elara looked up from the page and found Abigail staring at her. "What?" Elara whispered. "Nothing. Everything. I don't know." "You're looking at me the way people aren't supposed to look at each other." Abigail's cheeks flushed. "I'm sorry. Don't apologize." Elara's voice was soft but firm. "I look at you the same way." The confession hung in the air between them, like the candle flame. Fragile, dangerous, necessary. Abigail reached out slowly and took Elara's hand. Their fingers intertwined, and for a moment, the whole cruel world outside that room ceased to exist. "This is madness," Abigail whispered. "Yes. We could be killed." "Yes. I don't care. Neither do I." They sat like that until the candle burned low, hands clasped, hearts racing, knowing they had crossed a line from which there was no return. But the plantation was not as oblivious as they hoped. Thomas, the overseer, had noticed Abigail's late-night absences. He had watched her slip away after everyone had gone to bed. He had followed the light beneath the storage room door. He told Martha. Martha told the lady of the house, and the lady of the house told her husband. A storm was brewing, and neither Abigail nor Elara saw it coming. The next morning, Abigail found a note slipped under her door. It was in Elara's handwriting, rough but legible, proof of their secret lessons. "They're watching. Be careful. I'll protect you even if it costs me everything. E." Abigail pressed the note to her chest, tears streaming down her face. She had never asked for this, had never expected to feel this way about anyone, especially not someone the world told her was beneath her. But here she was, willing to risk her family, her reputation, her very safety, for a woman whose hand in hers felt like the only honest thing in a world built on lies. That afternoon, during the usual gathering in the main parlor, Abigail's mother confronted her. "There are rumors, Abigail, ugly rumors." "About what?" "About you and that woman." Abigail's blood ran cold. Her name is Elara. I don't care what her name is. Whatever you think you're doing, it stops now. I'm teaching her to read. I'm treating her with basic human dignity. You're making a spectacle of yourself. People are talking. Your father is furious. Let him be. Her mother's face hardened. You will end this, or we will end it for you. The threat was clear. That night, Abigail snuck down to the storage room, but Elara wasn't there. She waited for hours, her heart pounding with fear. Finally, just before dawn, Elara appeared. Her lip was split, and there was a bruise forming on her cheek. What happened? Abigail gasped, reaching for her. Thomas, he wanted to remind me of my place. Rage flooded through Abigail like fire. I'll kill him. No! Elara grabbed her wrist. You'll do nothing. You'll stay silent. Promise me. I can't. Promise me. Abigail collapsed against her, sobbing. Elara held her, strong and steady, even as her own body trembled with pain. We can't keep doing this, Elara whispered. They'll destroy you. I don't care. You should. They held each other in the darkness, knowing the world outside was closing in, knowing their time was running out, knowing that loving each other might be the most dangerous thing either of them had ever done. If this story is gripping you, go ahead and leave your like and follow the channel so you don't miss anything from this adventure. 3 days later, everything fell apart. Abigail's father summoned her to his study at noon. His face was hard as stone, and her mother stood by the window with tears in her eyes. Sit down, he commanded. Abigail remained standing. What is this about? You know exactly what this is about. He slammed his hand on the desk. I have been patient with your eccentricities. I allowed you to go to Philadelphia, to fill your head with ridiculous ideas about equality and justice. But this perversion ends today. It's not. Do not interrupt me. His voice echoed through the house. You have been seen multiple times in compromising situations with that slave woman. Do you have any idea what this means? For our family? For our reputation? I don't care about reputation. Then you're a fool. He stood, towering over her. I have made arrangements. Tomorrow, Elara will be sold to a plantation in Georgia, far enough that you'll never see her again. The room spun. Abigail felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. No, you can't. It's already done. And Father, please, there is no discussion. And you will marry Thomas Whitmore by the end of the month. He's a good man from a respectable family. He'll help you forget this madness. Abigail's voice came out as a whisper. I'll never marry him. You will, or I'll disown you. You'll have nothing, no money, no home, no family. Is that what you want, to be cast out for some unnatural attachment to a slave? Her mother finally spoke, her voice breaking. Please, Abigail, come to your senses. This isn't love. It's confusion. You'll understand when you're older. I understand perfectly. Abigail's voice was cold now, steady. I understand that you've built your fortune on the suffering of human beings. I understand that you care more about what the neighbors think than about what's right. And I understand that I will never be the daughter you want me to be. She turned and walked out, ignoring her father's shouts behind her. She had until tomorrow morning, one night, to figure out what to do. That evening, she found Elara in the small cabin she shared with 3 other women. Elara's eyes were red from crying, but her face was composed. You know, Elara said simply. Yes. Then you know there's nothing we can do. There's always something. Abigail knelt beside her. We could run north to places where they still hunt us down, where you'd be ruined and I'd still be property. Elara shook her head. I won't let you throw away your life for me. My life is worthless without you in it. The words hung between them, raw and true. Elara cupped Abigail's face in her hands. Listen to me. You are young. You have so much ahead of you. Don't waste it on a fight you can't win. I'm not giving up. You have to. No, Abigail's voice was fierce. I will find a way. I promise you. They held each other as the sun set, knowing it might be the last time. But Abigail had one more card to play. Her uncle, her mother's brother, lived in Boston. He was a Quaker, openly opposed to slavery. He had offered years ago to help Abigail if she ever needed to leave the plantation. She had never taken him seriously before. Now she had no choice. She spent the night writing letters to her uncle, begging for help, to the few friends she had in Philadelphia who might offer shelter, to anyone who might give her a chance to save Elara. At dawn, she bribed one of the stable boys to ride to the nearest port town and send the letters on the first ship north. Then she went to see her father one last time. "I have a proposal," she said calmly. He looked up from his breakfast, surprised. "I'm listening." "Don't sell Elara. Give her to me as my property. I'll take her with me when I marry Thomas. She'll be my personal servant. No one will think anything of it." Her father considered this. "And you'll marry Whitmore without complaint?" Yes, it was a lie, but he didn't need to know that. "Fine, but if there's any more scandal, any more rumors, I'll sell her so far south you'll never find her again. Are we clear?" Crystal. 2 days later, Thomas Whitmore arrived for dinner to discuss the engagement. Abigail played her part perfectly, smiled at his jokes, agreed with his opinions, acted like the dutiful daughter her parents wanted. But that night, after everyone had gone to bed, she met Elara in their secret place one last time. "The letters are sent," Abigail whispered. "My uncle will help us. I just need to buy time." "How?" "I'll pretend to go along with the marriage, but before the ceremony, we'll run together." Elara looked at her, torn between hope and fear. "And if we're caught, then we'll face it together." They kissed for the first time that night. Desperate, tender, defiant. A kiss that tasted like freedom and fear and everything forbidden. Above them, stars glittered in the Virginia sky, indifferent to the drama below. But in the slave quarters, whispers had already begun to spread. And in the main house, Thomas Whitmore stood at his window, watching two shadows meet in the darkness, and his jaw clenched with rage. And if you want to keep discovering what happens, follow the channel now. Each chapter brings new revelations. The engagement was announced the following week. The plantation buzzed with preparations for the wedding, seamstresses measuring Abigail for her dress, the kitchen staff planning elaborate menus, guests receiving invitations from as far as Charleston and Richmond. Abigail moved through it all like a ghost, playing her part while counting down the days until her uncle's response arrived. But Thomas Whitmore was not the fool she had hoped he was. He had been watching. He had seen the way Abigail's eyes searched the crowds for a certain face. He had noticed how she insisted Elara remain her personal servant, how they were never more than a room apart. And he was furious. One afternoon, he cornered Abigail in the library. "I know what you're planning," he said quietly, closing the door behind him. Abigail's heart stopped. "I don't know what you mean. Don't insult my intelligence." He stepped closer. "You have no intention of marrying me. You're using this engagement to buy time to run away with her." "That's absurd!" "Is it?" His voice was dangerous now. "I've seen the way you look at her. It's disgusting, unnatural. Your father should have beaten it out of you years ago." Abigail's fear turned to fury. "You know nothing about me. I know enough." He grabbed her wrist hard enough to hurt. "Here's what's going to happen. You will marry me. You will behave like a proper wife, and that slave will be sold the day after our wedding. If you refuse, I'll tell your father everything. Every secret meeting, every inappropriate touch, and he'll do far worse to her than simply selling her south." Abigail pulled her wrist free, trembling with rage and terror. "I'll never. You'll do exactly as I say, unless you want her blood on your hands." He left her there, shaking, trapped. That night, Abigail told Elara everything. "We have to leave now," Abigail said desperately. "Tonight, before he can do anything." But Elara was thinking more clearly. "We're not ready. We have no money, no plan, no... I don't care." "I do." Elara gripped her shoulders. "If we run now, we'll be caught within days. Your father has trackers, dogs, connections everywhere. We need to be smart. Then what do we do? Elara was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something that broke Abigail's heart. You marry him. What? No! Listen to me. Elara's voice was steady, though tears streamed down her face. You marry him. You play the role. And when the time is right, when we have real resources and a real plan, then we run. But not before. I can't marry him. I can't. You can. For us. For our future. Elara kissed her forehead. I'll wait for you, no matter how long it takes. Abigail sobbed against her chest. I love you. I've never said it before, but I love you. I know. I've loved you since the first day you knelt beside me in that garden. They held each other until dawn, memorizing the feel of each other's heartbeat, knowing they would have to become strangers again in the morning. The weeks leading up to the wedding were torture. Abigail wore her engagement smile like a mask. Thomas paraded her around the plantation like a prize. And Elara remained close, silent, watchful, her face carefully blank. But at night, Abigail received letters from her uncle. He had connections on the Underground Railroad. He could get them both to safety, but it would take time, months, possibly, and it would require careful coordination. Abigail wrote back, agreeing to wait, to play the long game, but fate had other plans. 3 days before the wedding, one of the house servants, a young woman named Ruth, who had always been kind to Elara, approached Abigail in secret. Miss, you need to know something. Thomas Whitmore has been meeting with slave catchers. He's planning something terrible. Abigail's blood turned to ice. What kind of something? I don't know exactly, but I heard him say he wanted to make an example, to teach you a lesson. That night, Abigail confronted Thomas. She found him on the veranda drinking whiskey and smoking a cigar. What are you planning? She demanded. He smiled slowly. Just ensuring my future wife understands her place. If you hurt her, you'll what? He stood towering over her. You have no power here, Abigail. You never did. You're a woman, and in 2 days, you'll be my woman. Your money, your property, your precious little slave. All of it becomes mine. I'll kill you first, he laughed. No, you won't, because if anything happens to me, my associates have instructions to take that slave girl and make sure she suffers in ways that will haunt you for the rest of your life. Abigail felt the trap close around her completely. There was no way out, no escape. She was going to lose everything. That night, she and Elara met one last time before the wedding. We're leaving tomorrow, Abigail said. I don't care anymore. We'll take our chances. Abigail, no more waiting, no more plans. We leave at midnight. I have horses ready, supplies packed. We'll head north and never look back. Elara searched her face, then slowly nodded. Together then. Together. They sealed it with a kiss, desperate and fierce. But they weren't as careful as they thought. Thomas had set watchers on them both, and when they met behind the stables at midnight the next evening, bags packed and hearts racing with fear and hope, they found not just their horses waiting for them. They found Thomas Whitmore, her father, the overseer, and half a dozen armed men. Going somewhere? Thomas asked with a cruel smile. Abigail stepped in front of Elara instinctively. Let her go. This is between us. Oh no, her father said coldly. This is about her, about what she's done to you, about the corruption she's brought into my house. She's done nothing wrong. Take her, her father ordered the overseer. 2 men grabbed Elara, dragging her away as she fought and screamed. No! Abigail lunged forward, but Thomas held her back. Watch, he hissed in her ear. Watch what happens to those who forget their place. What happened next would haunt Abigail for the rest of her life. If you're curious about the ending of this story, don't forget to like and turn on the channel's notification bell to follow the final chapter. They dragged Elara to the center of the yard, where all the enslaved people of the plantation were forced to watch. A warning, a lesson, a reminder of the cost of stepping out of line. But before the overseer could raise his whip, something unexpected happened. Elara stood tall, looked directly at Abigail, and shouted loud enough for everyone to hear, "I'll go. I'll leave tonight. Just promise me she stays safe." The overseer paused, confused. Thomas frowned. Elara turned to Abigail's father. "Sir, I'll accept any punishment you see fit. I'll go to Georgia, to the sugar fields, wherever you want to send me. But let your daughter keep her life. Please." It was a performance, a desperate gambit, and somehow, impossibly, it worked. Abigail's father, faced with a crowd of witnesses and a slave offering complete submission, hesitated. He had wanted to make an example, but Elara had just given him a way out that salvaged his reputation without blood. "Fine," he said coldly. "You'll be on the first wagon south tomorrow morning. And you," he turned to Abigail, "you will marry Thomas Whitmore as planned, and we will never speak of this again." Thomas opened his mouth to protest, but Abigail's father silenced him with a look. That night, Abigail was locked in her room. She beat against the door until her hands bled, screamed until her voice gave out, but no one came. At dawn, she watched from her window as a wagon pulled away from the plantation, carrying Elara toward a fate she couldn't bear to imagine. The wedding took place 2 days later. Abigail stood at the altar like a statue, her eyes empty, her spirit broken. She spoke the vows in a hollow voice. Thomas slid the ring onto her finger with a triumphant smile. That night, as her new husband celebrated with whiskey and cigars in the parlor, Abigail sat alone in her room, holding the last letter Elara had managed to slip to her through Ruth. It read, "Don't mourn me. Live. Be free for both of us. And know that loving you was the only real choice I ever got to make. E." Abigail folded the letter carefully and placed it in a locket around her neck. Then she made a decision. She would survive this. She would play the dutiful wife for as long as it took. She would smile and nod and pretend, but she would also plan. She would gather resources, make connections, learn everything she could about the routes north and the safe houses along the way. And when the time was right, she would find Elara. It took 7 years. 7 years of living a lie. 7 years of saving money in secret, of writing coded letters to her uncle in Boston, of building relationships with people who whispered about freedom. Thomas grew comfortable, complacent. He stopped watching her so closely. He took mistresses and spent long periods away on business, and Abigail used every second of his absence to plan. In 1855, she finally got the letter she'd been waiting for. Her uncle had located Elara on a sugar plantation in Louisiana. She was alive. Abigail didn't hesitate. She took the money she'd been hiding, forged documents claiming Elara as her inherited property, and traveled south with 2 hired men who asked no questions. The plantation owner in Louisiana was reluctant at first, but Abigail's money and her convincing story about needing a skilled herbalist for her Boston household eventually swayed him. When she saw Elara again, standing in the yard of that hellish place, 7 years older and marked by suffering, Abigail felt her heart break and heal at the same time. Elara looked at her, disbelieving. "You came. I promised." They didn't embrace. Not there. Not yet. But their eyes said everything. The journey north took 6 weeks. They traveled as mistress and servant, careful, cautious, always watching for slave catchers and suspicious authorities. But when they finally crossed into Massachusetts, when they finally reached her uncle's house in Boston, when the door closed behind them and they were truly safe for the first time in their lives, they collapsed into each other's arms and wept. "We made it," Abigail whispered. "We made it," Elara echoed. They lived quietly after that. Abigail's uncle helped them establish new identities. They moved to a small house in the countryside, far from the eyes of those who might recognize them. Abigail never returned to Virginia. She let them believe she had died during a fever outbreak in Boston. Thomas remarried within a year. In their little house, surrounded by the gardens Elara cultivated and the books Abigail collected, they built a life together. It wasn't the life either of them had been promised. It wasn't easy or accepted or understood by most people who knew them, but it was theirs. They lived together for 43 years. When Elara died in 1698, Abigail buried her in their garden under a willow tree, with a simple stone that read, "Here lies a free woman." Abigail followed her 6 months later. They were buried side by side in a place where no one could separate them ever again. The house stood for another century before it was torn down. The new owners found a hidden compartment in the walls. Dozens of letters between two women written in code, speaking of love and freedom and the price they paid for both. Those letters are now in a private collection, rarely shown, their full story still debated by historians who can't quite believe what the words seem to say. But in the end, the truth is simple. Two women loved each other in a world that told them it was impossible. They fought for each other. They sacrificed for each other. They found a way to be together against all odds. And for 43 years, they were free. If this story moved you, leave your like and follow the channel for more incredible stories from the past, mysteries and hidden secrets that only here you'll find.